Hey, what's up everyone, Ultimatomic HD here, and today I'm bringing you my very first deck profile on the channel. Yes, to all of you who have been following my channel for almost 7 years now, you'll know that I actually did have featured several deck profiles here on the channel in the past, but I long ended up deleting those videos because I really was not satisfied with the quality of those videos. And I had no idea what the hell I was thinking when I made some of those decks. So yeah, I ended up deleting them, and now this will be my first deck profile that stays around. So anyway, on this beautiful Raiden Shogun playmat, as you can all see, I'll be showcasing a deck profile for my favorite archetype of all time, Fortune Ladies. Because they're not getting nearly the amount of love that they deserve, and they still haven't received any new support since Rising Rampage, and I am very distraught about that. So anyway, I'll be sharing with you a deck that is... I won't go out and say that it's the best deck. It's obviously not the best deck out there for Fortune Ladies, but I did top several very high-profile decks and archetypes with this bad boy here. So I will be showing you how this deck works, and at the end of the video I'll even show you some replays where I curb stomp too easy, too medium, and too difficult to opponents. So yes, without further ado, let us get started. So obviously, the first thing you're going to need are 3 Fortune Lady Past, because this is the archetypes and the deck's only tuner monster. It's a level 1 dark tuner, so it basically is the key playmaker of the archetype, and it sets up almost everything there is for the archetype to work. So yeah, and it does this in conjunction with a 3-off staple of Fortune Lady Light. This is an old Fortune Lady classic, and yeah, this basically is a special summon from the deck, which is a non-once per turn effect. However, due to the fact that it says when and not if, she misses timing in a lot of situations which are really crucial for the archetype. So yeah, it can be very disappointing, and this is the monster that is the most in need of a retrain at the moment. So yeah, our next Fortune Lady is a single copy of Fortune Lady Fire, because while the burn damage she can deal and the removal she can offer is really good, she is a bit specific at times on what you can remove and cannot remove with her, and most of the higher level beat sticks and boss monsters have immunity to getting targeted and all that, but she can come out as a very nasty surprise if you manage to play your cards right, and the recent support from Rising Rampage has made her effect easier to pull off, because the only way her effect could be pulled off before Rising Rampage if she was specifically summoned with Fortune Lady Light, which is not exactly the most versatile way of summoning her, but with the new recent support, her effect is much easier and more versatile to pull off. So yeah, still, I prefer her at 1. Next up, we have a 2-off Fortune Lady Water. Now this is a debate whether you should run 2 or 3 of these. I personally find 2 waters to be the most optimal, because the 3 of them can clog up your hand on occasion. Even 2 of them can occasionally clog up your hand, but it's way less apparent when you're running them at 2 rather than 3. If you really want to, you can absolutely run 3 of them, I mean, yeah. And yeah, this is essentially a non-once per turn, draw 2 cards upon special summon if you have another Fortune Lady besides Fortune Lady Water on the field, and it then essentially turns Monster Reborn into a pot of greed. So yeah, then the last official Fortune Lady monster in the main deck is a single copy of Fortune Lady Dark. Because, yeah, it's a level 5 with 2000 attack, which is not the best, but it's certainly not the worst either, and she can occasionally, her effect can occasionally prove to be useful. She can revive a Fortune Lady Fire. By the way, Fortune Lady Fire can also trigger off Fortune Lady Dark, so that's something I forgot to mention. And yeah, she can also revive other monsters, so you can continue your plays at the cost of, well, she needs to destroy stuff by battle, or other Fortune Ladies can destroy stuff by battle in order to get this effect off. But the fact that any Fortune Lady monster can trigger this effect is pretty good, so that's why I usually run her at 1, and you can easily access her with the plethora of searchers in the archetype, so yeah, I do not find more than 1 to be necessary. I do not run Fortune Lady Wind and Fortune Lady Earth because Wind has had the potential to be very good as a, again, as a one-off, as a nasty surprise, just like Fortune Lady Fire, but the fact that she needs to hit the field by a normal summon renders her way too specific and slow, and not to mention her effect has a chance to not go off depending on the back row situation. And Fortune Lady Earth, despite being a beatstick, and yeah, she just keeps poking you for 400 each turn, which is not very good in its own way. And the last Fortune Lady support, as you can see, is a 2-off of Fortune Fairy Hikaris, because yeah, it's essentially when you draw this card, you get to special summon her, and not to mention she can fetch a level 1 spellcaster, any level 1 spellcaster, which includes Fortune Lady Past, Fortune Lady Light, and a card from the side deck I will show off as well. So yeah, you can either tribute Hikari herself, or you can tribute a Fortune Lady Light in order to trigger her effect, and the effect will not miss timing. So yeah, it was clearly made with Fortune Ladies in mind. So yeah, this will be the last of the Fortune Ladies we will see in the main deck. Now for some generic support to spice your arsenal up. First off, we have a small danger engine consisting of a Tsuchinoko, a Jackalope, and 2 Nessies. Because yeah, one of the things I was struggling with to do in this deck is to find very consistent splashable special summonable bodies onto the field, which can facilitate field presence without losing too much advantage. And while the familiars from the Charmer archetype were always a top contender for me due to how easily generic their special summoning condition is, it's just a body on the field with usually a floating effect to back it up, and that's not exactly the most versatile thing out there. However, dangers are actually fantastic in this role, because this deck, as seen in before runs Fortune Lady Water, double Fortune Lady Water for that draw power, and this deck keeps with the consistent theme of draw power by also setting up your graveyard, providing a body on the field, and going +1 when you get to summon it onto the field if the opponent discards a non-danger monster that you showed off. So yeah, the dangers actually work really well in this deck, and yeah, I know Nessie is now at 3, but this deck was constructed while Nessie was still at 2, so, but yeah, I really do not feel that you need 3 Nessies in this deck. If you had like 2 Jackalopes or 2 Tsuchinokos, then maybe I would squeeze in another Jackalope or a Tsuchinoko, but anyway, that remains to be seen, as that ban list is far away with these dangers getting altered, if ever. Then we have a Nibiru, because messing up the opponent's field is hilarious. This deck does sport multiple different ways of disruption, and I chose to run Nibiru in the at 1 copy because I honestly running any more of them slows this deck really bad. So yeah, you have the option if you have it in the hand, and this deck draws a lot, so you will most likely have him in your hand most of the time that you need him. So that's pretty much that. And the last 2 monsters for the main deck are 2 normal monsters. Dark Magician and Red Eyes Black Dragon. Okay, I won't dwell on these for too long because you all know what's coming up when we get to the extra deck. Okay, that was it for the monsters. Now it's time for the Spell and Trap lineup for the Fortune Ladies. First off, we have a duo of Future Visions. So yeah, I only run 2 of these because the field spell is not that necessary for the deck to function altogether. The only monster that benefits from this is Fortune Lady Light, which I actually hope that they fix in the future by maybe bringing retrains of the old monsters for every single monster to benefit from getting struck by Future Visions. So yeah, maybe also on a card which provides additional normal summons would also be nice. So yeah, like I said, I don't feel the need to run 3 of these because it's not that necessary in the deck, and it's actually very decent disruption for the opponent as well. Then we have a duo of Fortune's Future, which is also a debate whether you run 2 or 3 of these. Again, just like with Fortune Lady Water, if you do feel the need to run this at 3, you sure as hell can, but I honestly do not find it as necessary. Plus, this is sadly one of the better Fortune Lady support cards that is not searchable by their main searching card. And yeah, if it were searchable, I would definitely run more of these, but yeah, it's not searchable, and that's honestly very disappointing. And I already brought up the main searcher, and you'll be running this at 3 copies, and that is Fortune Vision. Yeah, this is a continuous spell which fetches any piece of the archetype that mentions Fortune Lady essentially. So the things it can search, I already mentioned Fortune's Future, and it also can search some of the shittier cards such as Bending Destiny or Time Passage or Fortune Slip. So yeah, some of those very specific and cryptic cards it can search, and it might as well not, because we will not be running those. And it also has some niche protection effects, one of which pairs up with one of our synchro monsters that we will be covering here. And yeah, it pairs well with Fortune Lady Light and of course Future Visions. So yeah, obviously you run 3 of these. The only downside, of course, is that you can only activate 1 of them per turn. And the last Fortune Lady card, set of cards I should say, from the spell lineup is a 3-off of Fortune Lady Calling. Yeah, this fetches any Fortune Lady from the deck that is of a different attribute than the Fortune Lady that you currently have. The problem is, that it locks you into synchro monsters for the rest of the turn, which can get really annoying if you don't have a prominent board set up for, or if you don't have a particularly relevant synchro monster to bring out at that specific moment. But still, special summoning from the deck is very much appreciated, and the reason why you obviously all the time play this at 3. Okay, now for some generic support. We have a single Terraforming to search out your field spells. Then Dark Rule or No More to basically skill drain your opponent's board temporarily to easily deal with any issue that you might have at the moment. Then we have Forbidden Droplet, 1 copy, because I don't find any more of them to be a hindrance. I actually received this card for free for my 21st birthday, so by complete freaking happenstance. So yeah, cheers, definitely. So yeah, that's something you'll be running as well. Then we have Monster Reborn. Here we go. Again, generic monster revival, and you should always have it on standby. Then we have Harpy's Feather Duster for clearing back row, because it's finally back at 1. So yeah, to have the Floodgate coverage as well. 1 for 1, because most of your playmakers are level 1 monsters, as we've seen with Fortune Lady Past and Light, so you obviously always run 1 for 1. And the last 2 cards are fusion spells. Red Ice Fusion and Magicalized Fusion. So yeah, I won't dwell on these for too long. I'll get them mentioned more when we get to the extra deck. And as for the traps, we only have 3 traps left to go, 2 of which are a pair of Fortune Lady Rewind, which is an archetypal return from a different dimension that shuffles any Fortune Lady that was summoned by this at the end of the turn and back into the main deck. Sadly, this does not trigger the effect of Fortune Lady Light, because, yeah, of course it doesn't. And yeah, this is not as necessary in the deck, but it can cause some nice surprises for the opponent. And one of these is going to be replaced in the future by the upcoming Kurikara, the immovable avatar, once she is released in August in the TCG. So yeah, or the other, or one or the other might also get replaced if Soul Charge ever comes back from the ban list. Let's hope it does, because Soul Charge is going to make this deck even more insane than it already is. And our final main deck card and the final trap is Evenly Matched. So yeah, this is another very powerful counter card. I don't need to elaborate too much on this. So yeah, that is it for the main deck. Now we move on to the extra deck. First up, we have Fortune Lady Every, only 1 copy of the new boss monster for the Fortune Lady archetype. Well, it is one of their prime targets to go into. I honestly don't find more than one of these to be necessary due to her very handy recursion effect. So yeah, keeping up with the synchro monsters, then we have another level 7 Black Rose Dragon, because yeah, this is one of the best synchros ever made, wielded by one of the best girls in Yu-Gi-Oh! Ever conceived. So yeah, you'll be only using the first effect to nuke the entire field on a synchro summon, and this also pairs well with Fortune Vision. As if you applied one of the effects of Fortune Vision, if one of your cards got banished by either like Fortune Lady Past or Future Visions, then if Black Rose Dragon activates its effects, then your monsters will not get destroyed by Black Rose Dragon's effect, while the opponents will. So so Black Rose Dragon can be a one-sided field nuke if applied right. Then we move on to the level 8s. Then we have Stardust Dragon, which is a bit of an unusual choice. I know there's clearly some sort of bias here, since Stardust Dragon is one of my favorite Yu-Gi-Oh! Monster of all time. But I do find his effect to still hold up in this deck, because I think quick destruction effects will always be relevant in some form of fashion in the meta. And not to mention one of the side deck cards I will feature also incentivizes you to run Stardust Dragon. So yeah, there's that. Then we have our last level 8 Borreload Savage Dragon, which is an easier to make Quasar here, essentially, because when Fortune Ladies get some brand new synchros, or maybe other retrains to their main deck monsters, maybe I'll make a Quasar variation of them, because the Quasar is awesome, and so is Blazar and Cipher. But yeah, Borreload Savage Dragon is essentially an easier, hard once per turn Quasar to make here, seeing how you will be running quite a few Link monsters in this deck as well. So yeah, and lastly, to close up with the Synchro monsters, we have the pair of the regular Trishula and the Sub-Zero Trishula, the level 9 and level 11. And yeah, I found that this deck is very capable of making very peculiar levels, such as levels 9 and 11s. So I decided to throw in these two, because these two work very well with the intended nature of Fortune Ladies, with banishing the opponent's cards, triggering the effect of Fortune Vision and all that. So yeah, it's a very good pair of boss monsters to have on standby, especially with Sub-Zero, which can bring back or special summon from the extra deck, the original, or from the graveyard. So yeah, that is it for the synchro monsters. Now we move on to the link monsters of the archetype. Let's start with the lower link monsters, lower link rating monsters. First up, we have another unusual choice, and that is Brute Enforcer. Because, well, it has a very decent attack value, and it's one of the more generic link 2 monsters you can make. And not to mention, you can either force the opponent to waste resources from the hand, or have some quick spot removal in a pinch by dipping one of your cards and setting up your graveyard. So yeah. And the other link 2 I run is IP Masquerena, because again, one of the prime examples of generic monsters that used to access your higher link monsters. So yeah, that's pretty kick-ass how you can use her effect to go into one of the boss monsters that we'll mention soon. So yeah, and now for the only link 3 monster in this deck, and that is Blackluster Soldier, Soldier of Chaos. This guy is very easy to make if you're using Danger Nessie, or if you've brought up one of the normal monsters onto the field, or even Nibiru if you're still having them around. Or the most usual method if you've made Trishula or the Fortune Lady synchro monster, and then you use her as material for this. So yeah, this is a very nice boss monster to run. And now we will move on to our link 4 lineup, first of which we have Saryuja Skulldread, because draw power and easy special summoning from the hand is always appreciated. Then we have Mech Knight Crusadia Avramax, an absolutely insane boss monster that's so easy to make if you're using, for example, a Blackluster Soldier. Maybe, for example, if you have the need to get rid of him for some reason, or Brute Enforcer and IP Masquerena. So yeah, it's very convenient, and it has and if made by IP Masquerena, it's even a better monster than initially it would seem. So yeah, and our last link 4 is Appaloosa, the Bow of the Goddess, because monster effect negation is pretty much crucial to your success in any deck. So why not play a monster that has very easy access to it? And lastly, we have the link 5, Underworld, Goddess of the Closed World. This thing is insanely fun to make if you're using IP Masquerena on the opponent's turn to snap, to essentially she becomes a Formula Synchron and then snags the opponent's monster in order to make this. So you can pull off some pretty fun snatching with this and turn this into a very hard to outboss monster. So yeah. And alright, we are almost at the finish line here. Only 2 more extra deck monsters to go, which are the fusion monsters. It's been made pretty clear that he's in this deck, and here he is. Red Eyes Dark Dragoon, and the other one is Quintet Magician. So yeah, that's why you run Magicalized Fusion, since you do have quite a bit of spellcasters with different names, and you can easily provide another quick and easy nuke, just like Black Rose Dragon. But this one is always guaranteed to be a one-sided nuke, and Dragoon is Dragoon, so I won't bother you with that much. So anyway, that is it for the actual main deck, and now I'm going to go over the side deck, which is not something that many deck profiles seem to be doing. So what I personally like in my side deck, I like to run 2 Effect Veilers, because monster effect negation is always going to be prevalent in the meta. Then 2 Fortune Fairy Cheese if you need some additional draw power, and this can be an excellent monster if Summon Sorceress ever comes off the ban list. Then we have an alternative field spell, Secret Village of the Spellcasters, for some extra lockdown and disruption. Raigeki for some, again, easy monster effect, for some easy monster swiping and destroying. Then Called by the Grave, because those Ash Blossoms are very pesky little things. Change of Heart, because snagging the opponent's monsters is always nice. 2 Cosmic Cyclones because clearing back row is mandatory. And then we have Red Reboot to basically serve the same function as Secret Village of the Spellcaster, but for traps. Titanocider for, again, monster effect negations and wiping their attacks. Wiping their attack points, I mean. Starlight Road, again, another unconventional choice, but it basically is a destruction saver, and not to mention you can float into a Stardust Dragon upon activation. And last but not least, we have Mask of Restrict to basically out kaijus. Now, if you have been counting correctly, yes, those were only 14 cards in the side deck, and that is because the 15th one, Crossout Designator, another very powerful negation tool, is not here yet. I do not yet have it, and it will be here in about a week, so yeah, that is pretty much it. Like I said, the only updates this deck will go through is basically if maybe a banned card, one of the banned cards I mentioned comes off the list and I end up replacing one of the cards here. And of course an update that will definitely be going off is when Kurikara gets released, and I will be replacing one of the Fortune Lady Rewinds with her, because she's essentially another good flavor of Nibiru style not negation, but disruption, and not to mention she can bring back anything from the opponent's graveyard as well, so that's another great aspect to her, aside from her becoming a pretty powerful level 1 beatstick if you just tribute one monster, as opposed to many, how many she's usually going to be tributing. So anyway, thank you all so much for watching. Stay tuned for more videos and updates. Comment, like, and subscribe. Be sure to check out my Patreon when you got the time. Maybe drop a few donations if you feel like it. And let me know what you think about this deck profile. And yeah, maybe there will be more of these in the future. So see you all and have a good day. Peace.
just prattling. No time for me, no tangling. Put you in the spot with no angling. A lot of anger in it. Flash rhymes, coated with spangles. Add some sounds in the times. Wangles, 3 dots connect to rectangles. Just like music sounds connect them rambles. Hell now, no man can run away. Fast while you just prattling. No tumbling, no tangling. Hit you in the spot with no angling. A lot of anger in it. Flash rhymes coated with spangles. Sounds in the tongues. Wangles, 3 dots connect rectangles. Just like music sounds connect them rambles.